right, so now I'm going to take you through the full body cars routine. Really important is that as you're moving through each of the cars, if you experience pain in the closing angle side of the joint, that's a red flag, a no-go zone. So you just come out of the movement a little bit and then proceed with the cars in a pain-free way. We're going to start from the head and work our way down. So we'll start standing, make two tight fists. Think about starting to squeeze and really engage your thighs, squeeze your butt. All of the body is nice and tense. That's the irradiation that's going to help from the rest of the body compensating when we start with our neck here. So take a breath in, irradiate full body tension. Keep breathing. It's just going to be a little bit more of a shallow type of breath. And then we're going to start bringing our chin down towards the chest to flex the neck without letting anything from the shoulders down come along from the right. And then from here, rotate your head to the left. Side bend left ear towards left back pocket. Extend the chin away from your chest. Side bend to the right. Rotate right. Come down through flexion and do one more rep slowly to the left. Try to expand the circle, maintaining cadence, maintaining the tension in the body. After 2 reps, pause here, check in with your full body tension. It's still happening. And again, you're going to flex chin to chest. Try and see if you can squeeze out a little more flexion. Then to your right side now, rotate. Side bend, extend, side bend left, rotate, flex. Do one more repetition. Try to make the circle 1 millimeter bigger. Moving in a pain-free range. Good. Return to center. We'll take the arms across the body. Now we're working our thoracic spine. The tendency here is that when we flex the spine, our hips begin to pull backwards. That's spinal flexion and hip flexion. We're not working the hips quite yet, so think from the hips down that nothing is moving, okay? We've already done our neck, so as well, don't let your neck flop around. Keep that locked in place. So arms will come across to create a little more upper body irradiation. Try and split the ground apart, squeeze your legs to your butt, make tight fists, breath in, irradiate the body, and then begin to flex around the upper and middle spine. When you start to notice your hips want to pull back, you're going to pause there. Then to your left side, begin to rotate without letting the hips come along for the ride. Side bend, left shoulder towards left back pocket, and then extend, lift up and over. Try not to let your pelvis pull forward. Keep that locked in place. Side bend to your right. Ring out, squeeze out the rotation to the right. And then come down through flexion and continue. One more repetition. Slow, controlled. And try to gain 1 millimeter through each of those movements. Once you meet into flexion again, check in with the tension of your body, breath in, irradiate. And again, maybe you can squeeze out just a little more flexion. Don't let the hips pull back. And then to your right side now, rotate. Side bend, extend. To the left side bend, rotate, flex, and do one more rep. Try to expand the circle, the movement, without letting other parts of the body come along for the ride. Good. From here, we will continue on moving to our scapula, the shoulder blades. Now, tendency for compensation is within the rib cage or the head, as well as the elbows bending. So keep your arms really straight. Pull your ribs and your sit bones forward. Again, squeeze the body, the rest of the body, so nothing else is coupling in the movement. As from here, we'll move, lifting the shoulders up towards the ears as much as possible. Keep some of that elevation while you push or protract, punching forward. And then depress, draw down. Keep the elbows straight here as you retract, squeeze back behind you. And then continue, do 2 more reps going forward and around. Try to expand the circle without letting the rib cage flare, without letting the elbows bend or letting your head move in space. And then we'll reverse, making the circle 1 millimeter bigger. Try to imagine that even though as I cue, it sounds like kind of an up, down, forward, and backwards direction, but you're trying to smoothen out those edges. Keep some protraction, keep some while you elevate, keep some elevation while you retract, keep some retraction while you depress, and then you'll relax. So now we'll move into our glenohumeral joint. So this is speaking to your upper arm bone, so the humerus, and its relation of movement to the shoulder socket or the glenoid fossa. So we're going to start, imagine that there is an X on the bicep. You want to max out as much external rotation so the bicep is facing forward and out. I like to hold on to my ribs here just to use that as reference if my chest is starting to turn as I'm moving. So it's not thoracic coupling with shoulder, glenohumeral, but it's just getting some honest good work into that shoulder joint. So externally rotate as much as you can, maintain it. Sweep your arm across the body into adduction and continue to lift your arm into your overhead flex position. When you can't go any further, you hit a roadblock. Now your bicep, we're speaking to the bicep here, begin to start rotating it forward as you start to take your arm back behind you into extension. Keep bringing out the internal rotation so eventually your knuckles face in towards your outer part of your hip. And now we're going to rewind. So keep the ribs in, squeeze your butt and legs. Take the arm back to your best extension position. When you can't go any further, begin to externally rotate. The bicep turns towards the front. Arm will come to its best overhead position. And then again, adduct the arm across the body and come down. We'll do this one more rep. Pay attention if your scapula is starting to move along for the ride. We're trying to independently work this relation of our upper arm bone into a still shoulder blade. So if the shoulder blade is moving in this particular case, for example, if it's protracting when I adduct, not that it's a bad thing, but it gives the appearance that I'm doing a lot more adduction than what I'm actually doing. So squeeze the shoulder blade down and back as you start to move through your second rep. Coming to your best overhead position, and then internally rotate as you extend, swooping the arm back behind you until eventually your knuckles face in towards the outer hip. So you're internally rotating, the bicep facing in towards your chest. And then rewind, take it back. Maintain the ribs as you start to externally rotate, bringing the arm up and overhead to flexion. Adduct the arm across the body without letting that scapula slide forward, glide forward, and then return down. Good. We'll switch sides. Externally rotate the left arm or your other arm. Swoop the arm across the body. Come to your best overhead flex position. When you hit that roadblock, begin to internally rotate, taking the arm back behind you into extension. Keep bringing out that internal rotation until your knuckles face the outer hip. And then rewind, kick back. Start to externally rotate as the arm comes overhead. Take the arm across the body, keeping the shoulder blade drawn back for this particular exercise. And then return to center. Do that one more time. Maintain the cadence. Try to expand the circle. See if you can wring out a little bit more rotation. A little bit more extension. Doing your best. The intent is to not let your scapula, the rib cage, couple in the movement. Good. We'll move on to the elbows. So squeeze the upper arms into your rib cage. Here we're trying to isolate, maintain, or keep the upper arm now from moving so it's not internal and external rotation or scapula sliding and gliding, but maintain that locked in place so that we can work supination, pronation, and couple that with flexion and extension. So that's the movement here now through the elbow joint. So breath in, irradiate, and then wring out as much supination as you can. Flex. Try not to shoot yourself in the face with your palm. And then pronate and extend. Supinate, flex, pronate, extend, maintain the pronation, flex, supinate, extend. One more time, pronate, flex, supinate, extend. Stick with that arm. Keeping now the forearm facing up, that's not going to change. We'll work into the wrist, fingers down. So you're coming into as much extension as you can, like you would in Mayurasana or you would in a plank pose, but your arm facing the other way. And then you'll start to deviate your pinky finger in. Keep the palm open as you come into wrist flexion. And then push the thumb out to the side. Fingers down, in, up, out, and switch directions to reps. Try and keep the palm open. Try and keep your forearm from rotating, the elbow from rotating, so we get all the good movement into our wrist. Good. Let's switch sides, so other elbow. I'm using my hand here just to block. So ideally, or it's not that one is better than another. This is just really helpful. If you find that things are wanting to move, it gives you a little bit of reference, a little bit of feedback. So wring out as much supination as you can. Rotate your forearm forward and then flex. Try not to shoot yourself in the face when you do that. And then pronate, extend, supinate, flex, pronate, extend. Maintain your pronation. Flex, supinate, extend. One more time. Trying to fight for a little bit more of each movement. Good. We'll move on to the wrist here, so keep that forearm facing upwards. Imagine you're balancing something on the forearm. That's not going to move as you come into extension of your wrist. Fingers down, fingers in, flexion, fingers up, thumb pushing out. Do that one more time in this direction, and then we'll switch. Go to in the opposite direction. Cool. Moving on to the hips. Now you can do this side lying. That's one of my preferred variations, but for now I'm going to do this one standing. So if you have something to balance on, then you can use that because it's not so much of a balancing exercise. It's about the mobility and the work of our hip. So I'm just going to grab this little chair here for balance. Starting with the right leg across the body, so you're already in a little bit of adduction. There's a tendency here when we do this that as you lift the leg up, your pelvis wants to drop down to the side. So try and maintain the pelvis nice and level. As well as when you come into flexion, there's a tendency to start rounding the lumbar spine. So try and, again, stay in a more kind of neutral position for now, not always. And as well, when you start to take your leg out to the side, there's a tendency to shorten or shrink that side waist to make it look like the leg is coming higher, but it's just the coupling of the spinal movement. So essentially, overall, when we work into the hip, we're trying to avoid the spine from coupling. It wants to take all the fun and the action, but we want to get the work into our hip joint. So it's the femur moving relative to a still pelvis. So hold on to something for balance. Take your leg across, and you can make a tight fist with the opposite hand. Take a breath in or radiate full body tension. And then as you begin to externally rotate your thigh, keep squeezing out that external rotation as you flex and pull the leg up towards your chest. And then open up the leg to the side without shortening that side waist into abduction. Keep the knee high as you internally rotate a little bit. Scoop your tailbone under. Keep the front of your hip points pulling up. Knee comes back behind. Extend the hip, not the spine. And then bring the knees together. And then rewind. Kick back. Pull the front of the pelvis up. Open out to the side, abduction. From here, externally rotate and flex. Pull the thigh up in front of the chest. And then slowly relax, lower down. We'll do this one more time. Maintain the tension. Try and wring out 1 more millimeter of each movement. And really pay attention to your pelvis. Is it starting to tilt? Whether it's posterior or anteriorly tilt or laterally, try and keep the pelvis still and work the movement of the femur bone relative to your still pelvis. We'll switch sides. Left leg comes in front. Take a breath in or radiate, and then begin to flex as you try to externally rotate even more. Open out to the side, abduct. Internally rotate, keep the front of your hip points pulling up. Extend knees together. And then rewind. Kick back. Open out to the side. Kick the heel forward, the knee, thigh up. And then slowly lower back down. One more time. Breath in, irradiate, flex. Externally rotate. Abduct. Internally rotate, extend. Keep the front of the hip points up. Knees together. And then kick back, rewind. Open. Pull forward and up. Slowly lower down. We'll move into our knees. The knee has some rotation to it, internal and external rotation, which is necessary for its health to be able to flex and extend. So kind of like the elbows, we're going to pair the internal and external rotation with flexion and extension. So from here, you can start by keeping your thigh facing forward, turning the foot, or I say turning the foot, but really it's turning the tibia, the shin, the knee, out on a still femur. So don't let your thigh move now. If you find that really challenging, then what you can also do is sit down onto the floor and kind of choke hold your leg, your own thigh, to keep the thigh from moving around. And then use the floor here to rotate the tibia internally and externally. And once you get that bit of rotation, then lift the heel up, keeping the external rotation, extend the leg, then internally rotate and flex, external extend, internal, and flex. Maintain the internal and extend. You're coming just short of full extension. And flex, internal extend, external flex. While we're here, hold on firmly to your leg. You can either extend it fully out or you can pull it in like I'm doing here. And now we want to work just the ankle without the knee moving. So pointer flex as much as you can down towards the floor, and then start to invert the foot towards the midline. Take the toes up, so you're dorsiflexing as much as possible, which you need for some good squat action. And then start to press out, evert the foot out to the side. And do that one more time. Pointer flex, invert, dorsiflex, evert. And then we're going to reverse, do that 2 reps the other way. Trying to expand the circle with each repetition. Cool, we'll do the other side. So again, you can do the same thing standing, but if you find that the balancing part is making it a little bit tricky to work that joint independently, especially if that knee rotation feels unfamiliar, then come down to sitting like I'm doing here. Hold on to the thigh really firmly, work that external and internal rotation. And then once you get into that external rotation, hold there, lift the heel up, and then fully, or not fully, but come just short of extension. And then internally rotate and flex. External extend, internal flex. Keep the internal and extend. External flex, internal extend, external flex. Extend the leg out fully or just pull it in nice and tight. Look down your shin and watch as your ankle, you move it. Try to expand the circles as you move 2 circles in one direction, 2 in the opposite direction. Smooth, control. Trying to smoothen out, especially those little edges as you work into those little sticky side parts. Cool. From here, we'll work into the toes. So again, you can do the standing or stay sitting down. First, just work your big toe, lift it up, and then lower the big toe down. Big toe up, big toe down. Do this a couple of times. If you find that that's really tricky, you can block the other toes from lifting. And then we're going to switch. The outer foot going to lift up. Okay. And then lift all 10 up, just the big toe coming down. And then all 10 up in like piano keys. Start from the outside, work your way down. 1 toe at a time. Good. Last little bit, one of my favorites, is going to be working into segmental cat-cow or spinal segmentation. So come into all fours, come into a fully flexed spine, so round, tailbone under, chin to chest, push the earth away, keep your arms nice and straight. And you want to maintain this flexion as much as possible in the upper spine, and we're going to start from the lower spine, begin to lift your tailbone up and back. And imagine that someone is walking their fingers up 1 vertebra at a time to slowly come into extension, maintaining the flexion of the upper spine as long as you can as you walk up 1 vertebra at a time. Eventually, as you come into your extension, maxing it out, pull your hands to your knees towards your hands. And then from here, maintain your extension, and we'll start from the bottom, begin to flex. So round, tuck your tailbone under, lengthen the lower back. Walking up 1 vertebra at a time towards the middle part of your spine. Slowly starting to flex into the upper part of the spine, into the last thing, your chin will come to your chest. You find your full flexion again. And then from here, we'll start from the head and work our way down. This one I find is a little bit more challenging. Keep your arms straight and start to, keeping the lower half of your body flexed, start to lift your chin forward and up. Start to pull your chest forward between the gateway of your arms. Start to extend, so it's from the upper spine to the middle spine. Walking your way down from the middle spine to your lower spine. Until eventually you find your anterior pelvic tilt finding that full amount of extension from upper spine to lower spine. And then start from the top, work your way down into flexion. So chin to chest, round the upper back, round the middle back, and eventually round the lower back. Tucking the tailbone, chin to chest, round through the spine. And then that is it. So that is our full body cars routine. You have that now for you to do to follow along. Feel free though, of course, I only cued us through 2 or 3 rounds of each of our cars, but if you feel like you need a little bit more work, then do a little bit more. This is here for you to do whenever you need. And again, it's something working through our full range of motion for all of our joints is something that everyone can benefit from. We get better control, better strength, better movement. It just feels so freaking good. So even though, you know, we might know the benefits of it, it's about setting a date with yourself. First thing in the morning when you get up, go through the cars. It doesn't have to be really, you know, it doesn't have to take the 20-some minutes that this video is. Once you learn it, you can go through it efficiently at your own pace. So I hope you enjoy, and I will see you for the next video.